from behind the camera. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Marathon Mondays with Mal, back at the mothership in Coburg, the world headquarters of Marathon Coach. I'm gonna take my mask off here so you can see what I'm saying, or at least hear it. Hope everyone's having a good Monday morning. Let me jump in front of the camera here. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what's going on. Armand and I are back. I am here at the headquarters for about a week before I go back down to the desert to do some more work with Marathon down in Indio, California. We're going to look at some shells today. Behind me is an X3 shell. We're going to peek inside, and then we're going to go outside and do kind of a comparison. The H shell and the X shell right next to each other outside. It's a little cold here in Coburg, but that's how we do it here in the Pacific Northwest. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. This is when we honor it. This is when we remember the contributions that Dr. King made. So for those of you out there who, how's my audio? Can you hear what I'm saying? Let me know how. But as I was saying, this is the day that we honor Dr. King. So however you choose to do that, thank you for honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on this Monday morning. And speaking of Monday morning, I'm glad to be back with you guys. I was down in the desert for the last week. I'm going to be going back down in another week. So other than big thanks to my family for their flexibility, a big thanks to Marathon for sending me down there again to represent these amazing coaches. We're going to talk about shells this morning. So let's go take a look at this one first. This is 1349. This is an X3 double slide. It's always great to see the X shell, but we're gonna go outside and do a side-by-side. We're gonna go outside and do a side-by-side look. This one is actually in shell prep, and the two that we're gonna look at outside literally have just driven in, and they're not, we've done nothing to them so far. So, audio's good.
Hard to say for sure, Mal. We've had some people saying no and just reset it, so
okay.
We should find out soon.
Let me know, anybody out there, how your audio is doing. We've got a coach in audit right there, but we're not going to look at a completed coach. We're going to look at shells this morning, an H shell and an X shell. Any feedback on my audio there? I want to make sure everybody can hear me. Boy, it's cold out here this morning. Everybody can hear me okay? All right. So we've got an H shell and an X shell, you guys. So before we go into these two, just to recap on the importance of why Marathon builds on the Prevost chassis. Your typical RV, and you can watch, Marathon has a really good quick video that Armand and I were just talking about, basically illustrating the difference between the typical RV is basically the welded platform from the ground down. It's the base of the RV. That's for your typical RV. And then the walls and the caps are added later, not in a bus conversion. This is a fully welded coach. This is a fully welded bus. It's made of it's welded together of 304 surgical stainless steel. And if you know what that is, I come from a steel background, so I know kind of the metallurgy that goes behind 304 surgical stainless. Surgical, it's such a funny thing to throw around. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to look at the differences before Marathon even gets into them. He's just arrived, Coach 1351 and 1350. 50 and 51, one's an X, one's an H. From the outside, I want you to kind of get an idea.
It's being difficult. Says now we're saying it's working now.
Okay. So kind of hard to see from the ground, but I want you to kind of get an idea. We're going to go inside, and I'm going to be able to show you the differences from the ceiling height, and then of course the bay heights. All right, let's go on the X. I'll let you go in, and then I'll follow you up in there. This is Coach 1350. This coach just arrived, and it's a shell. I can't even call it a coach yet because it's a shell. And this is what it looks like when we get it from Prevost. The insulation, the walls, the floor, all of this is done in Quebec, Canada. As you see it here, this is what it looks like when we get it. They drive it just a little over 3,000 miles from Canada. This coach will go into shell prep, which we saw at the beginning of the show. The Marathon craftsmen were in there getting things ready for it to go down to paint. But as you can see, this is the exact same thing as the commercial bus line from Prevost. And there are so many reasons why you would want to go with a Prevost. But I think what you can see in the shell, before we do anything to it, is the actual structure that is in here. This has been welded at the manufacturer. It's not added afterwards. When this thing moves on the road, and keep in mind the Prevost chassis is designed to stay on the road like a commercial bus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's why companies like Greyhound and other travel bus companies use the Prevost chassis to transport people, to transport companies, to transport groups like bands. It's designed to stay on the road for several hours, for several days. Now, when this thing is on the road, unlike an RV, a lot of things are moving, and because the walls and the cap are added later on a typical RV, the structure moves with it. This is going to move all together. It's kind of a hard way to describe it, and I'm probably falling all over myself trying to describe it to you guys, but basically this is going to stay together a whole lot better and a whole lot longer than a typical RV. That's one of the reasons why the resale value of a conversion bus like a Marathon holds up over decades. And that's where the bed's going to be. And you can see that platform right there. I'm going to change spots with you here and show off this cockpit. So this being the X, there's no additional step up into the luxury home. This is the platform. That's where the co-pilot seat's going to be. This is the ceiling. I'm reaching and I can't even reach it yet. So it's a much higher ceiling. The storage is different than on the H, and we're going to go outside and show you that in a second here. This right here is your typical Prevost cockpit prior to Marathon's alterations or Marathon's conversions, for the lack of a better term. All of this is a plastic dash. Very few things are in a completed Marathon. It looks absolutely nothing like this. The only thing that's retained that I'm sitting on is the actual structure of the seat. We strip the seat all the way down. I think you've seen that on Marathon Mondays before. We strip the seat down and we basically build it up with extra padding. We build it up with massage features, and then of course it's leather wrapped. All of this cockpit is leather wrapped. The dash, we built, as you guys have seen in our fiberglass shop, we build our own dashes and walls here in Marathon. Then we leather wrap them in our upholstery shop, and so it's always cool to see what these shelves look like in the cockpit when they are newly arrived. Very different than sitting in a Marathon. the luxury of sitting in a Marathon versus driving this 3,000 miles from Quebec. All right. So that is the X3 shell. All right, let's get down here. We got the electrical turned off. Let's go over here. I will show you we have another H shell over here. And we're not going to go in that guy. We're going to go into this double slide over here. First thing you can see is the additional steps up into the salon area, which this is what it's going to be. This is a slide out right here, as you can see. But this is completely different than the X. Ceiling is still high, but you've got higher storage, lower ceiling. Double slide again. But it still has those Prevost qualities in it. A fully welded stainless steel cage. And if you've ever ridden or driven a Marathon, you know that these are very, very quiet. If there, and I've said this before to so many people, if there is sounds and squeaks in a Marathon, it's wrong, and it can be fixed. I've seen it fixed on new coaches. I've seen it fixed and addressed on 20-year-old coaches. So if there are sounds that are in the cockpit, like we can have a normal conversation in the cockpit, where I've been in RVs before where you have to speak up, it's hard to hear, there's a lot of rattles, a lot of things moving. That's just part of the structure, you guys. That's part of the benefits of building on the Prevost chassis. The insulation that's involved in here, this is a bus conversion. It's just that much more comfortable also. So this is the H. This is Coach 1351, excuse me, or will be Coach 1351. But this is how it looks before we get it. And the next step for these coaches, both of these, will be to go to shell prep. They're going to add some more stainless features to the ceiling that actually holds the house ceiling in. So this is, we build onto the shell. There will be more insulation. There will be, they'll start getting it ready for the ceiling. They'll start getting things underneath ready to get it down to go to paint. And that's the first thing that it really does in the production schedule, is each coach goes to paint. Depending on the paint scheme, the plan for the paint on each individual coach, it could be there for 23, 24 days up to a month, depending on the complexity of that paint job. And as you know, we've seen some complex paint jobs recently, and I think that's kind of where the trend is going, is towards really dynamic paint jobs. And it's kind of up to, if it's a custom coach, that the customers have a lot of input in that, or if it is a designer choice, a lot of that is done by our marketing team here, most notably Sarah and Pete Sutton. And here again is the cockpit, very similar to what we saw in the X. This is the H3 cockpit as it is received from Prevost. And kind of my thought for doing this morning was just so you could see it and have point of reference of what it looks like compared to what it looks like when it is a completed coach. 3,000 miles is a long way to drive in a shell like this. I've heard that it's actually for experienced drivers like Dave Bash or Jim Thiel, some of our other drivers. It's actually fun to drive because the coach is so much lighter. There's no appliances, there's no ceiling, there's no cargo, there's no house built in here. There's no couches and sofas and what have you. No cabinetry. So it's really fun to drive because it's lighter. It's still got that really rigid feel to it that you would want in a bus conversion, but it's lighter. It's always cool to see before we get to it just how, I mean, I'm going to use the term basic because that's really what it is. It's a basic feel in here. And then when Marathon gets a hold of it, it just becomes a luxury cockpit. It's really, really cool. Let's go outside and take a look, Armand, before we boogie out of here. Walking down the side of these two. Let's walk down here and then we'll turn around. You know, I talk to a lot of people about buses, and there's a lot of people that just can't get away from that stainless. It's so beautiful when it's polished and you've got the paint going through it. It's just absolutely beautiful. Marathon is the converter for the X3. We've heard of other converters having the updated X3. Marathon has them. We saw one inside getting ready to go down to the paint department. Here's another one, Coach 1350. 1350 still for sale. It'll probably be completed sometime late spring, early summer, 1350. So the X3 chassis, if you are interested in an X3 chassis, Marathon is the converter that's building on that updated X3 platform. H3, this is a double slide. We also, and to use the childish term of going like hotcakes, the quad slides are flying. So as soon as we're building these quads, they are being sold. But this is a double slide H3, and you can see the difference between the two when you're standing here in between. And I think from this angle, you can really see the height difference. There's not a lot, especially before we get the awnings. Keep in mind, the awnings and caps are not up there. When I mean caps, I mean the front and rear that help tie in those awnings. Always makes them look different to me without the awnings up there. That's cool. Armand, were there any questions or anything that we need to address before we get out of here?
Nothing huge. Some people want to see the bays open, but since the power's not.
You know, let's check this H. You guys, I'd love to show you these bays. I mean, I think the electrical's turned off on both of these coaches. That seems to be. Maybe we have a key. Might not have the key here, guys. Wait a minute. Oh, looking like live video. Very cool. There you go, right there, everybody. There is your H3 bay before there's any wall structure in there. But one of the things that this video is going to illustrate is it's going to clearly show you the Prevost beam that runs through the coach. You can see it at the top, and you can see it at the bottom of the bay. That is going to add the structural rigidity of the chassis, which, for the lack of a better term, translates to the comfort when you are driving this coach. It's kind of hard because so many things play into that, from the airbags and the compensation that the airbags play. but everything working together, there is a reason that the Prevost chassis is the best bus conversion in the world, built in Quebec, Canada. And Marathon being the best converter in the world, that's why we build on this. Yeah, is that Paul asking that question? Yeah, Paul just asked a really good question. I just jumped behind there. Normally, you wouldn't have to use the keys. There is a key fob right here, everybody. This is the Prevost key fob. You can unlock the doors and the entry door, and you can unlock the bay doors with this key fob. But because this shell just arrived and all of the electrical is turned off on this coach, it's just connected right now. So I'm glad we had the key, so we were able to open that up. But normally you wouldn't have to fumble around. You can unlock the windows, you can unlock the doors, you can unlock the bays, and then of course, vice versa, you can lock them all from the Prevost key fob, which you get a couple of these when you buy a coach. But yeah, luckily we had the old school way to get in. Very cool. All right. And that's about it, everybody. I will be back down. We have a really cool virtual event coming up down in Indio, California. I'm going to tell you more about that next week. I tell you what, I think I'll be here with Armand on Monday, a week from today, and then plan on leaving the next day to go down to India. So stick with us again. Next Monday we'll be back here at the plant. I've got something really cool to show you that just came up. But then I'm headed back down to the desert for about another week and a half. Be yourself and do good things. And thank you for honoring Dr. King today. Have a good week and be safe. And yeah, if you're looking to buy a marathon, MALW, MALW at marathoncoach.com. Take care, everybody. Have a good week.